Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of the Small Business Matters podcast. I'm Gary Stockton with Experian. If you're running an online store for your small business, you know how important organic traffic can be. So for this Small Business Matter, we're going to talk about Pinterest and why it's become such an important component for so many online resellers. Jeff C. is here to help us unpack all of that. Jeff's an international speaker and visual marketing consultant specializing in Pinterest, visual marketing, and video. And he hosts the Social Media News live show and podcast. And he's also head beard at Manly Pinterest Tips. Jeff's worked with and produced content for many leading companies and influencers, including Guy Kawasaki, Kim Gast, Social Media Examiner, and Tailwind. Jeff, welcome to Small Business Matters.
Man, I am so excited to be here, Gary. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to geek out with you a little bit on Pinterest.
That's awesome. And, I've been looking forward to this interview since we started talking about it a couple of weeks ago, and reading so much about what you've done with Pinterest and in social media as well. But can you tell us a little bit about how you got started focusing on Pinterest?
Yeah, so many moons ago, I guess. Back in the day, I was driving. I can't remember. I just launched a new blog post, and I was listening to a podcast like I like to do on lawn trips. And I heard this girl on that was Social Media Examiner's podcast talking about Pinterest and how much traffic it drove. Driven to her website, and I was like, man, I could really use some traffic. So I thought, oh, I might as well start a Pinterest account. So I started doing that, and I wrote this article called, when I started using Pinterest, called Manly Pinterest Tips #1. And it was how I shared the secret board, because you can share boards with people and keep them secret, with my daughter. And we were sharing tips and crafts. And that was when she was younger, and stuff, and recipes. And that, that posted really, really well. And then I went on Pinterest and it did even better. And so this was back in the day when Google Plus was all the rage, and I was there. I had a lot of followers, and actually started a live show. That was back before Facebook Live and all that stuff happened, with 4 other guys, and we were able to interview people like Guy Kawasaki, who you mentioned, who I do this podcast for now, but also people like the guy who was the producer for Pretty Woman and Under Siege. I mean, we got it opened a lot of doors doing live video, and then I turned it to a podcast, and that led to working a lot with Social Media Examiner and speaking and all sorts of things. So yeah, it all started with a little blog about Pinterest back in the day on Google Plus.
Wow. So what's unique about Pinterest? What sets it apart from other social platforms?
So the founders, even the founders of Pinterest, have said that it's not really a social platform, and I know it gets lumped in there with like Facebook and YouTube and Snapchat and all those things, but it is actually more of a search engine. So I would say it's more like YouTube than any of the other ones, all the social platforms. But it's they call it like a discovery engine, and it's a place to go to discover new ideas and pin things you like. There's no fake news. There's no spammy stuff that comes out. It's just really the stuff that you go, and it's a visual search engine is what it is. And so that's what really sets it apart from every other thing. And the thing that really attracted me to it when I first started, and it's still true today, is that the shelf life for like a tweet or a Facebook post is something like 8 minutes. I mean, it's really, really small. Pinterest has this long term effects. Now it takes a little bit to get started and to go, but it's a search engine. So people are going and pinning your pins. And I think the average time for people, like before they do something, is like 3 months. So it lasts for a long time. I mean, it's got this huge shelf life. And I don't know about you, Gary, but creating content is hard. And, I want to get this most of it out of as I can. And so Pinterest made sense to me because it would surface back up. It's very seasonal. And it's just really, it's that long term, it's that long tail that really, really was attractive to me.
That's incredible because I spend, an inordinate amount of time
Right.
distributing content and
Right.
we create the content. Yes, that's a big
Hmm.
job, distributing it, and that half life of a tweet or a Facebook post. I mean, it's you really have to think about that. I mean, we do have to get our new content out there. Yes, but the fact that Pinterest is such a long term play,
Hmm.
it really makes sense if you double down on Pinterest. Is it hard to build an audience on there?
So it's harder now than it's ever been before. So like when I first started, it's a lot harder now. But the thing about Pinterest is so cool
Mhm.
is that you don't have to have a lot of followers. You don't, I mean, because the algorithm is surfing your content just like Google. You don't have to have a lot of followers on Google to make it successful if you show up in the search results. The same thing with Pinterest. I don't, there's people who have like 1,500 smaller, and they're killing it on Pinterest. They're making sales. They're getting traffic to their website because they're creating content that that audience on Pinterest really wants, and it's surfacing up through the algorithm, what they call the smart feed, which is what you scroll through Pinterest and you see all those pins. That's what the algorithm is serving you. And if you, strike a nerve or you're pinning content that really resonates on Pinterest, you don't have to have a huge followers. So I have like, I think I have like, I haven't checked in a while, but 30,000 followers on Pinterest. But my monthly views for my content is in the million, is like over a million. And so, um, and some of those smaller people who don't even have like 30,000, that they can even have a lot more than I have. And it's not so much followers that you want on Pinterest. It's not like Instagram or anything like that. It's I'm always in it for the clicks. I want people to click on it and go back to my website. The whole reason I'm there is for traffic. And so um you got to remember your audience on Pinterest. They're not coming to Pinterest to, like hunt for likes or to see what everyone else is doing. They're looking to find what they love and what they want to save and maybe purchase or go read later. And so it's almost a curation engine where they're going, and let's say, you know, Gary, you're decorating a man cave. Like you've got a new garage and you're going to decorate it all out. And so you'll start going to Pinterest and going, oh, I really like that workbench. Oh, I really like what they've done with that, that metal art. That would look great in my man cave. And you pin it. And then later on, you go purchase it, or you go and you find more stuff to add to it. So it makes a lot of sense for, thinking about your audience and knowing that people are going there to dream and to be inspired by and, purchase things. I think they said that people on Pinterest are 30% more likely to purchase things because they're shoppers. That's why they're there.
Mhm.
The other thing is on brands sometimes have a hard time. Like on Facebook, they have, oh, there's a post from a brand, blah, nobody wants it. On Pinterest, they don't mind. They like it. There's a lot of stuff from brands. Target kills it on there. Home Depot, Lowe's, they do some really cool creative stuff. And people enjoy it because they have tapped into a way that they're helpful to that audience.
Mhm. So we talked about finding products for a man cave. It's
Right.
not just for it's not just for men, right? It's not just for women. And I think
Right.
that's probably one of the biggest myths out there that we can bust right now, right?
Yeah. So the funny thing is, so when I started Manly Pinterest Tips, I did it kind of as a joke because it was known. It was like this is a platform for like nail art and braids and maybe some recipes. And you had to kind of dig a little bit deeper back in the day when I first started. But there's all this content for, like I was saying, man cave and cigars and cocktail recipes and all barbecue and I mean all this cool stuff. And so I was in it for traffic because I knew it worked for traffic. And so that's why I kind of started. And I actually started growing the beard back in the day. I was like, if this man Pinterest shift thing doesn't work, I can always shave. And so it's been, gosh, I don't know, 7 years, 8 years now that I've had this big old hunk of facial hair. So um, but yeah, it was known for that, and it was mostly in the United States. In the European countries, there it was kind of even. It's still the fastest growing demographic, the male demographic is, and so more people are getting into it. There's a lot of guys who use it but don't admit that they use it. It's kind of the case like their girlfriend or their wife will give it, and they'll start using it, and they're like, "Man, there's a lot of cool stuff on here, like for my man cave or for my garage or for I have a whole woodworking stuff because I do a lot of woodworking." That I get tons of content and some great ideas over on Pinterest. So yeah, it's still, people make fun of Pinterest and oh, it'll fit in a mason jar and all the quinoa recipes and all that stuff. But there is a lot of great content for men on there. So don't let that stereotype really sink in too deep.
Thinking about the content, you really do have to be intentional if you are photographing products, right? In photographing it in a good way, and
Hmm.
maybe making some initial investments in lighting. If it's jewelry, for example, you would want to make sure that it's not set down on a dinner table. You
Right,
would
right.
want to have it with a nice lighting. I mean, Uh,
Mhm.
are you doing that with your Pinterest channel?
So, for the clients that I've worked with, yes. So, but I have a friend who's you mentioned jewelry, and she creates jewelry. She's a silversmith and does this really great stuff. She's over in the UK, some gorgeous stuff, and she's killing it on Pinterest. She's doing a lot of cool stuff. And you're right, photography is very, very important. But there's also now, it's changed the way. Like when I first started, the strategy was like you create content, you make a pin, and you share it to all these different boards, and you keep doing that over and over. Well, that has changed now. So it's they really want fresh content on Pinterest. They also really want video. If you go through
Mm.
Pinterest now, you'll see a lot of video that before it was kind of all static. They also have these things called idea pins. They were used to be called story pins, and they're almost like stories like you find on Instagram. Only they don't go away. They're attached to your account. And the point that I'm making is, yes, photography is super important, especially for static pins. You want to have really great video, but you also have now this kind of behind the scenes thing that's going on that wasn't there before on Pinterest with these idea pins. So think of Instagram stories behind the scenes. And so this lady with her jewelry is taking it and showing like how she's making it, like, you know, the molds for the silver and like heating things up and bending it to fit. And it's not glamorous, it's behind the scenes stuff, but they're killing it because how cool is it that you see the jewelry that you are going to buy being made and how it's being made? That has a lot of like, people get really nostalgic about that, saying like, in saving this video, I saw how this was made. I saw she made it with her own two hands. It wasn't just a machine that stamped it out. There's somebody behind this. That is really powerful now. So yes, you do have that. You want to have, those lifestyle shots. You want to have, especially if you're doing any sort of product, how it's, you want to see it out in the wild, but you also want to see a close up of it. But then you also have this new kind of raw behind the scenes, let me tell you a story and take you through the process, that these idea pins are really working for people, and Pinterest is really highlighting them in the algorithm because they keep them on Pinterest.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those, and I definitely agree. I think you've got to really show what life is like for you as a business owner. Yeah, and it could be any business really. I saw John Capos, Chocolate Johnny. I
Oh yeah,
saw
yeah,
him mixing up a new batch of I think they were turtle. I mean, they were delicious. I was sitting there
right. Yeah, he's all got good
salivating,
stuff.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
But he was having so much fun making up a new batch, and he was just coming out of lockdown and
Hmm.
showing that they were getting back to work. And you really want him to succeed. So
Right.
imparting, what life is like for you behind the scenes, very important. That's a great
Hmm.
tip. Can you control who can pin to your curated boards?
So nobody can pin to your boards.
Okay.
So those are what you. Well, I'll take that back. So um, your curated boards are the ones that you create. Like I said, I had a woodworking board. I have like a Twitter tips board. I have, different boards that make sense for me and my business. Now, no one else can pin to those. They can go look at those boards and take pins and pin them to their board, but they can't pin anything to my account. That's your account. That's your business. That's what you do, unless you have a group board or you're sharing it with somebody. So group boards are something that you can have different collaborations. Pinterest has kind of devalued those, so a lot of people aren't using those anymore because marketers, we break everything nice. We use it and destroy it
That's why
for.
we can't have nice things.
That's right, exactly. We can't. But that being said, it's a great. You can also, like I was talking about my daughter's board. You can have secret boards, and so you can. A lot of photographers will have boards with their clients. They'll pin something, and say, give us ideas of what you want your shoot to look like, and they can go and collaborate inside of Pinterest. No one else can see it, but it's a way to have that group collaboration. You can, I found really successful is to one or two people on a certain board. Like Peg Fitzpatrick and I have a board called Instant Instagram Tips. And we pin Instagram content to that one. Just her and I don't let anybody else in on that board. And the cool thing is that board ranks on Google. So if you search instant Instagram tips, we're like number 3 or 4, I think, last time I checked. So Pinterest works really good with another search engine, which is Google. So I know you probably been searching for things before, and instead of kicking it to your content, it took you inside of Pinterest to a Pinterest board. Well,
Yeah.
that's how it works with Google. So
That's
yeah, it
that's
ring,
so powerful
yeah,
because people are expending a lot. I know that we are. People are expending a lot of energy on SEO and really trying to get pages to rank. But in a lot of
Right.
cases, if you've just got a really well curated board,
Hmm.
that can be done. That's the investment that is going to pay off. But it's
Yeah.
a long-term investment too. Once you
Right.
get ranking on Google, it isn't something that's going to disappear overnight.
Right. Right. And that's the thing is, it takes a while to get, it's not like Instagram, like Facebook or Facebook ads where you can just throw money behind it and boom, it's out there and you're seeing some stuff. This is a long-term organic play. Now, Pinterest does have Pinterest ads, and that's a great way for companies to get a boost and get out there and having their content seen really quickly. It kind of jumps. It's a fast pass, if you would, in the line like at Disney or something. And so it allows you to, it's not as robust as Facebook ads are, but it's getting more and more granular. So it's, if you do have a budget, I know a lot of people move some of their Facebook budget when they got hit with the iOS stuff to try out Pinterest and found some success there. A lot of big brands are over there doing that. Whenever you're scrolling through the feed, if you see a promoted buy, which there are a lot of them in the smart feed, those are mostly by brands, and you'll see their content come to the forefront. So, but it's a long-term play, and all it is really just taking that one extra step. When you're creating your blog images, if you're making an image in Canva or Easel or whatever in Photoshop, that you just make that tall image, and more people are getting accustomed to that because they're making that to put on their stories anyway. So take that content and put it to Pinterest, right? Create a board, use descriptions and some good keywords. You don't want to just stuff your keywords and make it sound like a robot. You want to make it kind of sound organic, and add a pin description to your pin and pin that piece of content that you've created, and put that in your process. Continue doing that, and over time you will see some results. You'll start seeing, oh wow, this Pinterest thing. I keep seeing it show up in my Google Analytics. Um, the other thing is, make sure if you're doing this, if you're hearing this podcast and you're like, man, this is a great idea, I want to do it. When you set up your Pinterest account, if you haven't set one up before, is that you make it a business account. Now, I had mine was a personal one, and I was really freaked out. I was like, am I going to switch it? Am I going to lose a bunch of stuff? If you have one and you're switching it over, it's just a button you flip, and then you get access to analytics, you get access to ads, you get all this extra stuff. And if you're pinning business content and you have a personal account, you're actually breaking their terms of service. So make sure that if you are going to do this, that you do set it up as a business account, because you get a lot of extra benefit. The access to those tools that I was telling you about is a big deal. So don't be scared to do that. But yeah, set it up and get started pinning, and you'll see a lot of times when people set up and they verify their website when they're doing the setup process, they'll see that people have already been pinning their content. They just didn't know what it was coming from. And they'll start to see those analytics and go, oh, okay, I can see I'm already having success on Pinterest.
That's fantastic. Any final points on Pinterest?
So just do it and put it to your to your workflow. Do not be scared to do that. If you're creating content already for Instagram stories, repurpose that. A lot of times, when it first started, a lot of people repurpose their TikTok content. The problem was is Pinterest, just like Instagram has said, that if we see that that watermark of TikTok, they're going to devalue that in the algorithm. Pinterest
Oh,
has said the same thing. So download that content, because you have that option when you create it in TikTok, and get it without that watermark, and then upload it to Pinterest and see how it does.
oh yeah. That's a great suggestion. Let's talk about social media news live.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, this show, you do this show. How long have you been doing social media news live, Jeff?
So we started at the beginning of 2021, I believe, is when we started. So yeah, we're almost up to a year. So it's been a blast. And Gary, I really appreciate you always being there and all your support. So it's a fun show. I really, really enjoy it. We get amazing guests on our show that we that I either meet or I've known, or they we come in contact to, who we know is an expert on some certain thing. Yeah, it's so much fun to. I love it because I go and I learn something every time. So I'm learning right along with the audience, which is so fun. And we try to pull in as much content from the audience as we can. Like we're using Ecamm right now. It's just a great way. My thing is, why do live video if you're not going to involve the audience?
Yeah.
Otherwise, just do a YouTube video. So I love trying to bring in comments as much as I can.
I think that's the thing that makes your show so different and unique. Is that you're very conscious of people are watching, and you get quite a group when you do the show.
Yeah.
It airs live 8 a.m. Pacific on Fridays,
Hmm.
which is great because that's donut time for me, right? I'm supposed to be
That's great. That's
it's
good.
donut time for Gary, but I get my social media news live
Right.
education, and it's just that it's fun to watch that. So thanks for hosting that show. It's a great show.
Well,
Where can
thank you.
listeners find out about Manly Pinterest tips and also social media news live?
Yeah, manlypinteresttips.com is still there. A lot of great content on there. And there's a podcast that I haven't done for a while, but there's some really great guests on there for because Pinterest has a lot of evergreen content. So there's some still great episodes on there you can listen to. Social Media News Live, just socialmedianewslive.com. You can go and find past episodes because these guests, they're so good. We just have done a couple podcasting ones. So if you're interested in starting a podcast with this new year, there's some great episodes on there. We did a Thanksgiving episode where I give a shout out to old Gary Stockton, and that was a fun one to do. But yeah, so just you can search it on any of your podcast players. Just do a search for Social Media News Live. We'd love for you guys to leave a rating review and let us know and show up live to the show and ask questions. That's half the fun of it.
Yeah.
We have a good time.
Well, Jeff, thanks so much for coming on and sharing all of this great information with us. And would love to have you come back on if you'd be open to coming back and sharing more with us in the future.
Would love to, Gary. Thank you so much for this show and all you do. I appreciate it, my friend.
Thanks very much.